Hello everyone, welcome back to Wander the Nation's Rage with the painting vlogs. This is episode 1 of a brand new painting, starting fresh here. I'm going to entitle this painting Sea Under Siege. And in episode 1 here, we're going to be basically laying in some very basic lines. And the purpose of doing this is just to set everything in its place to where it makes sense, for me anyway. It might not look very great at the end of this video. In fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you. When this video reaches its end and I'm done doing what I'm doing here, you'll see that it doesn't look very good. But anyway, the first thing I do is I set in that horizontal line for the horizon. And from that point, I'm able to determine where I'm going to place the head of Tiberius. And if you look to the right, you can see the sketch or the drawing that I'm going off of. And this is the exact same way that I made the drawing. I started with very basic shapes and basically sketched them in, and as I moved along with my graphite pencils, I started to go darker and darker. That's one thing I didn't do here. That, I would probably change. If I could go back and do it again, I probably would have started doing the most basic of shapes with a much lighter color. Instead of making all of the lines with the same shade, the same shade of blue there, I would have definitely gone over, I'll just call them the foundational lines. I would have gone over them with a lighter blue than the Prussian blue here. But be that as it may, this is how the beginning of this painting came together. And I started with Tiberius. I wanted to get him his basic lines, his basic shape laid into the canvas before I did any of the background or anything else other than the horizon line there. As you can see, I'm painting in his legs there, and it's important to me. I'm really trying to focus on the layout of his right leg and the fact that he's lifting his right leg up because he's actually in the stance of taking a step forward. He's climbing some stairs right there. This is the point where my camera started to lose focus. I'm painting in a truck, a semi-truck here. This is my job. I'm a truck driver, and in my downtime I like to paint. So you may see the other trucks in the background there, and that's what that's all about. So I noticed that my camera was losing focus, and I decided to reposition everything to the back of the truck, which is possible to do sometimes, and then other times it's just not because of lighting. Thankfully, it was a pretty bright day outside, so I had enough light to move everything to the back of the sleeper there and keep moving. Now, when I put the house in, I realized that it was a little bit out of proportion with the lighthouse. So you'll see me go back in later and actually get rid of the lines that represent the house itself. Right here, I'm laying in lines for the cliffside, and notice that it's not exactly the way it is in the drawing, and I wasn't really worried about making it exactly like the drawing, not the rocks, not the cliffside. I just wanted to lay it out in a way that made sense geometrically, and as far as, you know, filling in three-dimensional space. I just wanted to lay in some basic lines for some rocks that will be easier to block in and later add detail to. Now I'm working on the lighthouse itself, and these are very, very, very rough lines. This is very loose painting. I'm not focused on any kind of detail. I'm basically just defining everything in a very loose way here. And that's basically all this episode consists of. You have to lay in a good basic foundation and build upon that whenever you're painting. That's the way that I've discovered how to paint and actually finish a painting, is by starting out very, very basically, and then later on adding more detail and more time into certain things. So I moved back up to the front of the truck at this point for more light and just comfort overall. And I'm kind of cheating here. I'm holding the canvas out in front of me, and I just figured that these finer lines that I'm adding in with the smaller paintbrush might be a little bit easier to add in if I've got the canvas at more of a flat angle. That way it's almost like I'm drawing with the paintbrush. So this is what I did on this day, and this was the first sit-in. And like I said, all it consists of is getting everything where it needs to be, and it's a very important step. It's almost comical the way I made his face look right here. It kind of reminded me of a Cabbage Patch Kid, the way his face looks right here. But I'm not really, again, I'm not really worried about what it looks like at this point. I just wanted to suggest that, you know, obviously he's got two eyes, he's got a nose, and it looks kind of funny because that initial center line that I put in the middle of his head to begin with, in order to get the form correctly added in there, it's all the it's all the same shade of blue, so there's no going in with a darker color at this point. It's done. What's been done is done. And, you know, that's why I titled this video, It Doesn't Look Good. Because it doesn't look good, but as you'll hear me say at the end of this video, I'm not really concerned about how it looks at this point. I was just really concerned about getting everything down on the canvas that needed to be there. Not an exact replica of the drawing, but everything that's in that drawing, by the time this video is done with, everything that's in the drawing is going to have a representation on the canvas, and that's really what the whole point of doing this is. And you'll see why it's not important what it looks like if you continue to watch throughout the rest of the series. You'll see what I mean whenever I say it's not really important what it looks like at this point. Because when you're painting, you're obviously going to add many, many, many layers. And this is just the bottom layer. This is the first layer. Technically, it's the second layer if you want to count the mid-tone that I spread out on the canvas before I did this. But this is just the first step. Now, the second step is going to be blocking in, and it's going to make more sense to you if you don't already understand, you know, what I'm trying to say. If I'm not using the right vocabulary to describe it to you. If you watch the next episode, I think it'll make more sense to you why I did this to begin with.
Okay guys, so this is gonna do it for this episode of the painting vlogs. So far, I want to say about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours into it. I know it looks very crude right now. There might be some vague similarities between the two, but the main purpose of this video was to start out. This is step one out of many steps. This is layer one out of many layers. This, sorry it's not wanting to focus, but it's actually kind of hard to see too because the paint's wet. But anyway, this is just the first layer, and the purpose of doing this was to get the basic lines of that onto the canvas, and I think I did a decent job of doing that. There are some changes that I made, and after saying that I wasn't going to scale it up, I actually ended up scaling it anyway. It just kind of naturally happened as I put the figure Tiberius there, as I put him in there. But believe me, this is going to change drastically as I move forward. I have to let this first layer dry. It's important that I do that before I move on. It's going to take it probably a good 24 hours or so to dry before I move on. And that's if I'm actually able to sit long enough to work on painting it. If not, I'm thinking about doing some sketching vlogs or drawing vlogs as well, just because, you know, it's a lot more convenient to draw. I have plenty of stuff to draw with, and it's not as time consuming. It doesn't take as long to prep, get everything set up for drawing as it does to do this. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've never done this before. I've never taken a very intricate, very detailed, very toned drawing or sketch and tried to paint it and tried to put it on a canvas. This is my first attempt to do that. So if you're learning, well, I'm learning too, and I just think that this makes the most sense. I wasn't expecting it to look good the first day, but looking at it from the angle that I'm looking at it from, no, it doesn't look good. It looks like crap right now. It's very crude. It looks like it's been scribbled onto the canvas. But like I said, I'm going off of basic shapes. That's where I start from. Anytime I do a sketch or a painting or anything else, I always start out with basic shapes. That's how you got to do it. You got to put the simple foundation in before you start adding over that and refining things. Like, my next step will be to refine all of these basic lines, all these basic shapes. And by doing that, you know, I'll be doing things as far as like blocking in with color. I'll be sharpening a lot of these lines up. I'll be adding some tone that'll come after the block in. That'll come after the block in phase. And then I'll start playing around with shadow and light and texture, kind of like I did at the end of the imperfect cathedral. But I think at this point, no, it's not as good as I wanted it to be. It's not, like, even the basic lines aren't as accurate as I wanted them to be, but I did the best I could, and I'm still pretty happy with the result that I got so far. I mean, this is the very beginning of the painting. It's a very important step. It's a very necessary step to get to where you want to be. The point is, now we have things to work with. Now we don't just have a blank canvas. We have several sectors and zones to go in and add time and add detail into. But I've found that the best way to do a painting and actually finish a painting is to start out with basic geometry, basic shape, and from that point you move forward. So you guys will see in the next few episodes this transform. It's not going to look like this as I progress. It's going to change drastically, like I said. It might not even end up looking anything like this in the end. But, you know, as far as area and where I've got everything sitting at this point, I'm happy with it. He's going to stay where he is. The lighthouse is going to stay where it is. The rocky cliffside there with the water are going to stay where they are. The steps, the house, it's all where it needs to be. That's my point for doing this. And this is an important video because this is an important step. It's very rough, but it says what it needs to say at this point. So I'll see you guys in the next painting vlog. I thank you so much for watching this. Come back, check it out, and let me know what you think. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Help my channel grow. These painting videos are a lot of work. And not only are the paintings a lot of work, but as far as making videos out of them that people actually want to watch, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time that goes into editing and narrating and, you know, adding my thoughts. And so far I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, and I appreciate that. You know, even if you guys have constructive criticism, you have tips or pointers when it comes to editing YouTube videos, let me know. And if you like, please subscribe to my channel. What I ultimately want to do is live stream my paintings, but I can't do that until I have at least 1,000 subscribers. And so if people like the videos, if you're watching these videos and you like them, please share them. You know, pass them on to the next person that appreciates art so my channel can grow. Because like I said, once I get to that 1,000 subscriber point, right now I'm not even halfway there, but once I do get to that point, I want to live stream some of this stuff. And you guys can hang out with me while I'm painting. I think that sounds pretty cool. So anyway, I appreciate everyone for watching. I thank you for watching the videos. I thank you for your interest. Keep coming back, and I'll see you next time. So on and so forth. Jared signing out with Wander the News.